Hey, good afternoon, all, and welcome to another edition of the Sal Greco Show. And I'm your host, Sal Greco. Thank you all for tuning in. If you can, please hit that like, share, subscribe button on YouTube. Hit the like and Rumble button is on Rumble if you're watching there as well. And if you are watching us streaming live on X as we speak, please like, repost this, share it out with all your friends, especially those in the low information bubble that need to get up to speed with things. Today is going to be really interesting as there's a breaking news story on top of what I'm about to cover now, which is the main topic. So a lot of things have come down. We're going to say a lot of allegations and rumors have come out, and it's come to my attention and also the guest we're going to have on today who put out public. And we're just going to do a little bit of a synopsis of this guy first. So not too long ago, the New York Post did a whole article about this guy. His name is Deputy Chief Richard Taylor. I mentioned this guy in the past on the show. He was here he is. This is who he is. This says the NYPD. This was in the Post like a few months ago. Promoted the department's highest ranking Orthodox Jew, a 9/11 hero that wears a yarmulke on the job as the city fights a wave of anti-Semitic hate crime. So he puts himself, and he's a deputy chief for community affairs. He puts himself as the hero of the community, but yet not even a couple months ago, you saw how the community was losing their mind when Crown Heights had all these issues, and Chief Taylor was either late to the game, or I believe he escaped to Long Island when another incident occurred, only to come back after the incident occurred. But he left, I guess, in an unmarked vehicle, in uniform. You need permission for that. I'm sure Eric Adams and Mark Stewart will let him roam around with that. I mean, there's tons of pictures with this guy. But a lot transpired. There's a lot of allegations that just came out in the last, we'll say the last 24, 48 hours. So even before I show you any of that, I got one right here. So apparently the clergy liaisons, okay, they get shields, right? And they're under, I believe, either friends or allegedly, this is a big thing with Richie Taylor. He either has a big part of the clergy liaisons in the NYPD. Now, the NYPD has Rabbi Cass. He's the main rabbi. He's always been the big liaison for the community, regardless. I even knew the guy. So apparently there's a lot of people running around with these clergy liaison shields. And they have an unauthorized light package, lights and sirens in their car. We have unauthorized parking placards. And what's alleged that it is apparently there's allegedly money exchanged for this. And when you pull these clergy liaisons, there's a lot of them. And apparently they're in Williamsburg and Borough Park. I don't know what synagogue they're part of, because that's to be a clergy, you have to represent a synagogue. So that's a big issue here. And apparently it is Chief Taylor, allegedly, that's in the middle of this. And apparently this is one of many internal affairs complaints that has been levied against this gentleman. Also, in the past, like I told you, there was the incident of allegedly something happened at the voting booth when he showed up. He showed up with his firearm unannounced, and that's how he ended up losing 10 vacation days. Clearly, that is not allowed. You can't electioneer and do all this stuff. And that's another investigation that Internal Affairs, didn't do their due diligence, apparently. And here is a little bit of his record. That's the incident that I'm referring to. He didn't identify himself in an off-duty incident. That was at the voting booth. Actually it was a voting. It was during voting in Brighton Beach, I believe. It's somewhere in Coney Island when this incident happened. But there was other allegation too. If you remember, His car was parked outside someone's house. It was an unmarked. The driver, not in uniform, but working technically. But again, he could sidestep this because as long as Mark Stewart and Eric Adams okay everything, even if it's wrong, it's not wrong. It's just so you know. Remember, the theme here is those that are close to the king can get away with almost the deepest crimes, is what we'll say. I mean, here is his what he makes. I mean, he's had a significant bump. I mean, you could see that he went from inspector to chief in a matter of what, a year, 2 years. So that's a rocket fuel promotion. As you know, we have rocket fuel promotions with Kaz Daughtry. So he's part of this circle somehow. So there was a couple of things that our guest Eric Sanders alluded to yesterday on X, and he made 2 posts that kind of started everything. So the first one was, he says, allegations of abuse in the NYPD. Multiple sources confirm that Deputy Chief Richard Taylor has been accused in a series of IAB complaints, yet there's been no disciplinary action, no transparency, no public accountability. Allegation number 1. In July of 2025, Taylor allegedly ordered an NYPD helicopter fly over for his daughter's birthday party, a ceremonial gesture traditionally reserved for the line of duty deaths and department-sanctioned events. Allegation number 2. After Taylor's department-issued firearm was allegedly stolen from his personal bag, he's accused of enlisting Shamram, a private civilian patrol group, to recover it. They reportedly used physical force to retrieve the weapon, and Taylor never filed an official NYPD report. Let's be honest. If this were a lower-ranking officer, they'd face immediate suspension. If this were a person of color, the media would be flooded with leaked hit pieces designed to destroy reputations before the facts came out. But here, radio silence. What is NYPD's savior, Jessica Tisch, going to do about this one? Does accountability only apply to some while others get a pass? Jessica Tisch, as we like to refer to here, as the soccer mom, who clearly has no idea what's going on in the police department, but has the New York Post, I don't know, do they work for her? Because crime is down. We'll get to that one later. Apparently, crime is always down, she says. Here's another post from Eric Sanders that gets more into the point here. Approximately $8,000 per hour. That's what it costs to fly an NYPD helicopter. Deputy Chief Richard Taylor is accused of ordering an NYPD helicopter flyover for his daughter's birthday party, a ceremonial honor typically reserved for line of duty funerals and official department functions. The request was initially denied by outgoing Deputy Chief Winston M. Faison, but it was later allegedly approved by Chief of Special Operations Wilson R. Bolus, raising serious questions about internal oversight and favoritism at the highest levels of command. Let's be absolutely clear. The average cost to operate an NYPD helicopter is approximately $8,000 per hour, paid by taxpayers. This was not a sanctioned emergency or public safety event. Under New York Penal Law 195, this may constitute the crime of official misconduct. A public servant is guilty when, with intent to obtain a benefit or deprive another of a benefit, they knowingly commit an unauthorized act related to their office. This isn't a one-off. This is systematic. When a personal celebration is treated like a hero's funeral, when senior brass bend the rules for insiders, and when silence follows misuse of public resources, that's not leadership. That's corruption. Will NYPD savior Jessica Tisch investigate her own command staff, or just keep selling the illusion of reform? So that was what Eric said. And just to, we'll just put the exclamation point. I have a video of this aviation unit, which there was a little video of, at the time, I believe, Deputy Chief Faison, and they mentioned the aviation unit. So let's play this for everyone.
History Month, we're highlighting the history makers in our own New York City Police Department. News 12's Caitlin Ulrich takes us inside the aviation unit to meet the first Black man to lead the unit and the pilots he leads.
There is a lot of pressure when flying. Maybe not for veteran pilot NYPD Aviation Commanding Officer Winston Faison, who has dreamed of flying since he was 5 years old, living in his East New York home. But he feels the pressure in other ways.
When you're the first of something, you have to make sure you do it right so it doesn't mess up people coming behind you.
Chief Faison is the first Black man to command NYPD Aviation.
The monumental position I'm in is going to open doors to other kids that's 5 years old in East New York, walking around looking at the helicopters.
And his right-hand man is the first Black man to be the executive officer of aviation.
We didn't think about it, but we actually made history with that.
The history they've made inspires the young pilots.
It definitely passes on motivation to others like myself, and hopes of also being able to reach that potential as well.
Who also dreamed of the sky in their Brooklyn childhood homes.
Born and raised Brooklyn kid down in Flatbush, never thought I'd be flying multi-million-dollar aircraft, a ton of them. So it's good to be able to see that.
Representation is important to the commander.
Seeds grow in multiples. So there's a lot of kids out there who just don't have an idea or can't even fathom flying. So
yeah, looks like he's got a lot of things going on there, Faison, but apparently he was being overruled for certain things with Chief Taylor there. So we're gonna get to the bottom of that. So joining us now to break this down, and there's another breaking news story behind this. So let's bring him on, and that's the former president of the Guardians and now an excellent civil rights attorney, Eric Sanders.
Who's that guy?
Yeah, who is that guy, right? That was at the time when the Guardians were really the Guardians, So, so you put up all these things. There's been rumors, allegations. I think there's a reverend running wild on the internet, just tearing Richie Taylor apart. So, what is the real story of what transpired? All those allegations, and how does that also coincide with Faison? Because they're going after Faison, but Faison, this Taylor incident sounds exactly like what Faison was doing, and he didn't even authorize it. So looks like there's a larger problem amongst us.
You might hear a little bit more about this whole Faison thing. Who knows? Hey, listen, I tip things every once in a while. You never know what you're going to hear. But no, the bottom line is, there's allegations. Oh, and before we even start, and I know Taylor might have his cronies or something listening. There are some rumors that, oh my God, they're going to sue you for defamation. Good luck. People have tried out over the years, and no one's made anything stick yet. But this time, if it's done to me, they're going to get a different approach from Eric Sanders. That's all you need to know. All right. The bottom line is these allegations against his chief are true. I confirmed it, and the only thing I don't have is actual pictures of him flying over the house. Other than that, I have a good source that confirmed it and how it was done. And that is official misconduct. The question is, what is the NYPD savior Jessica Tisch going to do about it?
Yeah, and like I said, because you mentioned the IEB complaints, you have two of them, but yeah. I could tell you there's another one that just landed in my lap here about the clergies, what's going on with the clergies and how they get their shields, and potentially and allegedly his involvement in that. So that's another complaint that is just coming across the desk, plus the one that I had referred to when he went to some female's house. I mean, they have all the names. This isn't me doing it. I don't even live in Brooklyn. No. So Richie has problems, and he's for years either deflected it or now he's running. I mean, no police commissioner has ever stepped in on this person, short of the allegation from 2014, which technically electioneering would be, that's dismissal. But
they said that wasn't done either.
That wasn't done either.
Anything. Everything's just all made up. I mean, you lose your gun, it's made up. Oh, the electioneering, it's all made up. Someone see you in an election area with your gun, you're not trying to intimidate anybody. I mean, it's just ridiculous. These guys are so silly. But once you're around this culture, these people are full of shit anyway. You don't listen to half the stuff they say because they lie all the time, and a lot of things get covered up. Internal affairs is the PR arm for the police department. Cover things up.
Or Eric Dim has coined them selective affairs. That's what they've become, because it seems selective. I mean, this guy, this guy has gotten away with so much for so long, and you say to yourself, "Oh, why haven't they stepped in on anything?" Nothing. We don't hear anything about.
And can you imagine taking a multi-million-dollar aircraft? I mean, look, by the time you add it up between the jet fuel and the personnel and the maintenance, and I mean, there's some, I mean, these are government equipment, so you don't get the same write-offs and write-downs. But the bottom line is, it's got a cost of at least $8,000 or $6,000-$7,000. It's going to be in $1,000 an hour to fly that damn thing. And this is what you do with it. That's official misconduct. So what are they going to do about it? And they don't, you know. And what pissing me off with the police department, they harangue these cops for all kinds of bullshit. Well, I've been around the culture long enough to know all kinds of stuff and integrity, this, that, and the other. Meanwhile, you have stuff like this they don't take seriously.
No, and I see this issue where very recently we know that now the FBI and the DOJ, they're looking into the aviation unit because of what Faison was doing. But if we're going to look at what Faison is doing, that allegation and what you said is that he knew about this and denied this flyover. Yet he somehow went around the other end and got the chief of special operations to approve this, which is just on the same level on its face, the same misconduct that you're accusing Faison of doing, whether he was doing it on his own or for his friends. So why is Faison being treated differently than Richie Taylor?
But that's always been a problem, the selective enforcement business and the criminal side and the civil side. That's the problem. And they'll say, oh, don't worry about the other people. No, you should worry about the other people, because if you're going to enforce the law, or as President Trump says, you're going to use lawfare, then it's supposed to be used evenly, right?
I would suggest this. This is, now again, this was all breaking in the last 24 to 48 hours. So I would expect that probably going to hear more about this incident and everything with you know, Chief Taylor is a polarizing figure in the community. So you're going to get many people that say, oh, he's doing good. And then there's even more that are alluding to.
Yeah, but Sal, you already know whenever you hear this is what you know. This is from experience. Whenever you hear the community like the police officers, that means they're not doing their job. Let me tell you that right now. If the police officer is doing their job, the community is not going to love them. They're going to respect them. They're not going to love them. If they love you, that's because you ain't doing no damn police work. Come on, I've been around long enough to know that game too. So we see these chiefs and all these people. Oh, they're so great. Oh, they never get any complaints. They didn't do no damn police work. They're all shucking and jiving and smoking and joking with people. That's all they're doing. Or they're dancing and playing basketball bullshit. They're not doing police work because they're the police officers. Yeah, they're not going to be popular all the time because they're enforcing the law. But the other people, oh, he's a great guy. I like him. Yeah, because he gives you what you want. Oh, yeah. He gives you the stroke job. You don't even really get anything. You think you're getting something, but you get stroke jobs, so they love it. We're connected to the police. You're not connected to the police. You're still an outsider. They just believe that.
Yeah, Knuckle once said they hammer cops for a cup of coffee, but this guy's flying helicopters around for birthday parties. Yeah, the job is on the level. Mm-hmm. Nighthawk says all facts from Mr. Eric Sanders. That's this. I expect more. We'll keep you updated on this whole thing with Deputy Chief Taylor. But again, I'm going to point to someone who should immediately step in, and that's New York City's favorite soccer mom, Jessica Tisch, who is the police commissioner, and we're saying might be just the police commissioner in name only. Either that or incompetence runs amok, because how do you ignore this? This is being ignored, in my opinion, and the opinions of many right now, and everyone's up in arms over it. So here is something. Yeah, here's another one. Quality of life cops deployed in Queens. So here she is telling you the Q teams are working, and it's just a revamp of conditions and crime.
Yeah.
And just misusing people, and it's just another vanity project for who else? Kaz Audrey, John Shell. It's these guys going to run around saying crime is down. But we know that that's not even true on its face, and I'll show you something in regards to that.
You know what's sad is that people believe these things are new. There's a science. Believe it or not, there is a science to policing. I mean, if we just talk about the London Peel model, so there's a science to policing. So it's not, if you look at the average police agency, especially there's a big difference between patrol people and investigators, like what you have the FBI and all these people. I don't even know what they're doing out there in Washington, because patrol is a different animal than sitting at your desk and investigating cases. But there's only a certain model, so they just get recharacterized, renamed. You see the ones from the 60s come back as some park walk and talk, C-pop. I mean, it's all the same thing. It's just get recharacterized. And there's no real impact. See, that's the thing. They like to make all these changes, and they go on the public, oh, we made these changes. We had a drop in crime. There are no longitudinal, long-term studies or even short-term studies that say, we spent this amount of money, we had this many police officers, and we can prove an impact. They can't prove anything. They just give you numbers, and people believe it. That's the sad part about it.
And you know, I was going to do this a little bit. Now you mentioned it, just going to put this up. If we could play the video I have, there's a video of a heinous thing that happened. And this is just, the video in itself shows the crime that is occurring that is being ignored. It's like, so you have reports on crime, right? But it's crime is down. Oh, reported crime, first of all. And I'm telling you, I mean,
oh yeah, I remember that one. Mm-hmm.
Look at this. So you're telling me you think this is being reported in transit? Right. This is an all-out brawl in front of people. This guy got elbowed in the face.
Yeah,
and they're just rolling around, throwing each other in transit. And you think that the soccer moms telling you crime is down? You think that crime is really down in transit? Just random attacks like this? I mean, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, I remember that. That's the old one. But yeah, but that's the operative word, reported. See?
That's right, reported. That's reported. And no matter what, that incident in itself, there's many of these incidents that occur that go unreported.
But Sal, we kind of talked about this before. I'm wondering if, I mean, look, when we won a job, they were still counting shots fired. I mean, they weren't marked as unfounded. They were marked as, okay, for further investigation, because you never know where these rounds will go. And but it seems, I don't know now if they even still count these shots, unless someone struck with a round or property damage. I don't even think they count them.
Look at this. They're struggling to take this Uber off his, I guess he doesn't have a license plate. First of all, it takes two cops to look at this struggle to get this guy off his bike and handcuff him, which in itself is really bad. This is the CRT, Q team, whatever you want to call it. I mean, this female cops just standing around. I mean, this is the
and the pants are too tight too.
Yeah, I mean, what is
doing police work? You got to worry about your pants fitting the right way. I mean, this is why I don't talk about it too much. I'm very critical of today's police officers. Sloppy, out of shape, everything that goes with it.
That's a two-pronged problem. First of all, guys running around with no plates, that's criminal. Then you have the fact of the people trying to arrest this guy. One's falling over himself. The female standing around looking, her pants are tight. I mean, what the hell is
Exactly. It's just crazy what's going on. It's crazy, I'm telling you. If this is why I couldn't come back. No way.
But you know what? The soccer mom and the New York City mayor, who's at 7% in the polls right now, they say that crime is down. Crime's down, Eric. I don't know if you know that. It's down. Okay. It's down. Okay. So now I'm going to get to something that just broke, okay? And this is in the city and state, all right? City and state, ny.com. And this is the headline. Investigation, unlicensed psychologists perform assessments of NYPD candidates. City and state found uncredentialed psychologists handling the job under a professional licensure exemption that the NYPD argues is valid. And here's more.
Let's stop at that top really quick. Now, the reporter did a good job in getting the details, but of course these things have to be vetted by the lawyers. So you see this whole thing about city and state found uncredentialed psychologists handling a job under professional licensure exception. What's the exception? Cited in the rules. There is no exception because it's not the rules. If you read the whole article, you'll notice it's not cited. I would never put that as a lawyer. I wouldn't do that as a lawyer. You worry about defamation. That is actually patently false. There are no exceptions. Cite a rule. Cite a rule. It's an E felony to hold yourself out to be a psychologist. And the person in the picture is one of my clients. He was a police officer. He was certified, went into the academy, and then he decided later on he's has some kind of anxiety, and now he's no longer certified. So then they fired him. And the cute part of it is the doctor who evaluated him is not even a doctor, but she used the title doctor.
That's what I'm reading here. So Marquise Anderson is the person you're talking about. And he's in that picture. And it says 3 weeks after starting his training, he tested positive for COVID-19. Instead of referring Anderson to a physician, the department's sick desk sent him to a medical psychological evaluation unit where he was seen by Vanja Radonich. Radonich identified herself to him in court papers as Dr. Radonich, department psychologist for the NYPD in the psychological evaluation section. That's insane.
And that reminds me, I have to notify the court that we have someone holding themselves out as a doctor, and she wasn't a doctor.
No, you can't do that. That's a felony in itself.
That's an E felony, and you're perpetuating a fraud upon the court. And you know what? And see, now that I've talked about this for a while, except this goes into other parts that I didn't even consider because I was thinking about just the uniform guidelines. Now I'm going to start looking for people because at least with this article, we can establish back to 2013, they had 55 or 74 persons who hold themselves out to be psychologists doing evaluation of applicants. What kind of craziness is that?
This is
by the way. I'm asking Bragg and Tisha Jane, what are you going to do about this? Literally thousands of people went through this process. So there's some numbers that since 2015, there's more than 20,000 people went into the police department. So we know at least that group. But what about all the applicants that were seen that were not hired?
Yeah.
Or you're talking about a lot of people. This could be a class action suit. So I'll be putting something out about that.
Yeah, this is ugly. So Anderson gave I guess he spoke to the journalist here. What I didn't understand is why they sent me to be seen by someone who was not even a medical doctor when I was out sick with COVID. And for them to claim I was suddenly mentally unfit based on her evaluation after I had already passed another psychological exam just a few months earlier shows how arbitrary their evaluation process is. So now the city records show the NYPD has employed Radonich with the title of psychologist since September 29, 2019. But the State Department of Education's verification portal does not display a record of anyone with hers or a similar name holding a license or permit to practice psychology. How is this being allowed? And this is continuing. Does this happen under Sewell, then Caban,
O'Neill?
Yeah.
All of them, O'Neill, all of them. It's going to be going on since at least 2013, at least.
So this has been going on since 2013 under the candidate assessment division and all of that. So this is how many people knew about this? Having doctors like this on the board.
Isn't that beautiful? But you know the other part, because I kind of skimmed through it because it just broke when we were getting ready to go on. The kicker to it is they made a whole boatload of overtime too, by the way. These people who aren't even licensed made a whole lot of overtime.
Yeah.
That's something that should be looked into. Now, there's a real issue.
That's a problem. Special Hagen chimes in. She's a good friend of the podcast, by the way. She always has good comments. And I think you might even know who she is, Eric. She says the irony in all of this is that Adams is supposedly big on mental health initiatives. He spoke on a bill today that seems to involuntarily commit even more people.
Oh, yeah. He was talking about that today about people who are on drugs. We're just going back. See how we recycle the same things over and over again? And he's only talking about it now because he thinks somehow that's going to look good for the polls.
Yeah, but he can't get elected. He still
But then
can't
there's a problem. It runs into the First Amendment, so that's a whole nother issue. Mm-hmm.
Here she is. Look, she made this is this is the last fiscal year, 122,000, and her rate paid was 84,000. So she made like almost 40,000 in overtime.
Yeah, look at the title, psychologist.
Psychologist.
Can't be a psychologist without a credential. You can only have it with a permit, and the permit is only good to up to 3 years. After that, you can't get permitted.
Yeah.
So that means she didn't pass the boards.
This is a giant problem. John McCarry chimes in and said, so, wow, so the NYPD can't just deputize employees as doctors? Who would have known? Unreal.
But you know what? And this is why, and this gets me back to you guys, right? This is why what you're doing and what these guys do on the other side of the Finance Unfiltered is better than public service. You know why? Because these other media companies are not going to touch this stuff. They'll do all the puff pieces. They won't dig. They won't find anything. It's only people like us that'll come out and even talk about this stuff.
Yeah. Just like when we started with Richie Taylor. I mean, the New York Post bows down to the guy. Meanwhile, look at the latest bombshell allegation with him. I mean, there's more. Look at this. It keeps saying she's a psychologist.
Beautiful. Isn't that special? And you can only use that title if you're licensed. That's what the educational law says.
She is not a psychologist. She cannot. That can't be a title. This is a.
I challenge any media person that's listening to us right now. Call the police department up, and they say there's an exemption. State the rule, because if you call up the Department of Education in the state, they'll tell you there are no exceptions. Zero. Not for the police department. For other titles like social worker and some other titles, but in other agencies, not with the NYPD.
This is really
Eric. What are you going to do about it, Mayor Adams? What are you going to do about it? This is your problem. I'm going to read a little bit more. This article is a bombshell here, and then you can see on the screen about Adams unveiling the Compassionate Interventions Act, the proposed state law that would expand involuntary commitment for people suffering from substance abuse disorders on Wednesday during an address at the New York Hilton Midtown. That's a ploy just to try to get votes. He's at 7%. No matter what he does, short of the other candidates either perishing in some tragic fashion, we don't wish that on anyone, or just stepping out of race, he will not be the mayor. That is a guarantee. I just want to say something, Sal, before you go back into the article. Yeah. Now, this creates a big legal problem for the NYPD. You know why? What about the 30-some-odd police officers that are on probation now?
Oh, yeah.
What about them? Now you got to look at the psychologists who evaluated them. That's not even something that the PBA even considered.
I'm telling you, you need to go back to around 2013 when this all started, and you need to go all the way back and review every single person at this point. I mean, who's the psychologist? Oh, are they psychologists? So you call yourself going, oh yeah, we're exempted because we just do what we want in the NYPD. I mean, this is crazy. It says the state calls for only fully licensed or board permitted psychologists in police psychological assessment roles. Additionally, the state municipal police training council guidelines require only fully licensed psychologists be permitted to evaluate the psychological fitness of potential police candidates. So they're touching on the candidate assessment division, how they handle things and what goes on with that process. When asked, the NYPD said via email that Radonjic and others were exempt and didn't need any licensure, citing a clause in the New York's education law that allows state, federal, and municipal employees working toward their degrees to work as school psychologists or to assess students in approved educational settings using the title certified school psychologist, as long as they did not use the title licensed psychologist. Radonjic.
Oh, wait, Sal, wait. So you mean doctor is okay? She's using doctor.
That's not okay.
Oh, wait a minute. But it doesn't say licensed psychologist. So I guess saying doctor's fine. You know, they talk so much bullshit. It's ridiculous. And they let them get over with this so much. It's just totally ridiculous. This is going to cost them, if people come forward, in the millions of dollars, guaranteed. They made all these crazy assessments of people and not even licensed. What's brag? What are these prosecutors going to do about this problem?
Oh, this is a problem. And Special Hagen says, ideally, stay trained up. They ask you for your license and proof of your registration status. As an attorney, they made me bring in my degrees. So I don't know. I don't even know how this woman is. Yeah, she says she's a doctor. You got the job. I mean, how does this work? This article, there's more. This is Assembly Member Manny De Los Santos, a member of the State Assembly's Education Committee, told City and State that he had, quote, never heard the education laws exemption for the Board of Psychology's credentialing exemption used in this way. It is disrespectful to the profession to have students who have not yet finished their graduate degrees making these important assessments, and this practice needs to end, De Los Santos added. Jesus, I mean, other police departments across the state adhere to the statute and only hire fully licensed board permitted psychologists for these roles, such as in Nassau County and Albany. Anderson is not alone. Thousands of other candidates have been flagged and denied entrance into the police academy according to public records because of poor psychological assessments, a process which critiques and advocates allegations that they miswrote that, has been purposefully used to promote bias towards certain candidates and to uphold norms that some have called structural racism. And here's your quote. The NYPD has knowingly allowed licensed individuals to pose as psychologists, conducting evaluations, disqualifying candidates, and making career-altering decisions in direct violation of New York State education law. They can't go work somewhere else and are left beholden to the department for licensure and vulnerable to pressure. Weaponizing, and he added, the department weaponizes the psychological screening process to control who gets to serve. Of course, a spokesperson declined to comment when asked if the NYPD tracks the demographics of candidates. It's candidate evaluation test, or if the NYPD accounts for any disparities among demographic groups adversely affected by the psychological assessments. I don't know if you want to comment on
you see that part right there?
Yeah.
That's also known as the Uniform Guidelines of Employee Selection Process, the UGESP. That's the thing I keep writing about. They don't follow it. It's obvious they don't follow it. And now we know why they don't follow it, because you have these people making these illegal assessments. I mean, whether you pass or fail, it doesn't matter. That's like you going to a doctor and the doctor's going in making an assessment of you. It's the craziest thing I've heard in my life. It doesn't matter whether to harm you or not, meaning to get declined. That means theoretically every person that was seen by these people have had their rights violated. It doesn't matter whether they pass or not.
Yeah, that 100% says that. John McCarry chimes in and says, so not only do people get arbitrarily disqualified, but people who should not have a gun are getting hired, endangering the public. This is Russian roulette, not a competent process of hiring and vetting candidates. Yep. He's 100% correct. This is scary. Special Hagen, the civil service pay scale for psychologists and psychiatrists are also dramatically. Something popped up. Hold on. I don't know why this. Dramatically different. Psychologists get paid substantially less. Oh my God! I mean,
and by the way, since they were talking about the exemption, probably all 55 of these people that were not licensed, they already graduated from school. So that whole thing with the exemption while they're going to school doesn't apply anyway. They're so full of shit. You know, they talk so much. They don't even listen to themselves. They like to just say things because people love red herrings. That's why I keep throwing red herrings out there. They love it to go, oh, that sounds so official. This is the police department's word, the official. It's official bullshit. The bottom line is these people aren't in school. Most of them have their master's degrees and they have their PhDs already. So then that means even with using their logic of exception, although they can't point to a rule that says that, by the way, they're out of school. So if they're not in school, they can't do it anyway. It wouldn't apply, would it?
There's more, and they're getting into this. A city and state review of the NYPD psychological assessment unit data focused on the credentials of individuals conducting evaluations of potential recruits and officers in the field after shootings and traumatic events, and found that 55 out of 74 individuals doing the psychological assessments over the past decade did not have a license or permit to practice psychology. Currently, only six of the 14 psychologists employed in the psychological assessment units are unlicensed and unpermitted. The city and state analysis also found a high turnover of all people working to do psychological assessments, licensed or not, who have only worked an average of 2.5 years over the past 12 years before leaving the department. 26 out of 74 psychologists in the department's assessment units have spent a year or less on the job since 2012. This is the NYPD's press office did not respond to a query from city and state when asked what was being done to retain its psychological staff longer. The 55 psychologists have worked for the NYPD's psychological assessment unit since 2012 without licensures or permits have also accumulated a combined 50,000 hours in overtime, according to city and state's analysis of overtime records. What do you say to that, Eric?
There's your scandal investigators. There's your scandal. How are they getting overtime for they're committing crimes by giving these assessments and they're not licensed, and that's an E felony in New York, and they're collecting money on the other side too. Isn't it? I love it. They're looking at all this other nonsense. That's just employment disagreements. This is not an employment disagreement. This is a serious problem. And if you look throughout the state and look in other states, you see people arrested for this kind of stuff.
I just saw people getting arrested and convicted of using the PPP loans for COVID-19 stuff. If they're going through that kind of stuff, how do you ignore? This is like right in your face. A simple search, you can see people's licenses, where they went, they registered, the school. This is like, oh, I know Joe, so give him a job. Like that's kind of like, it's like street work almost. Like, hey, we're hiring our friends. We know this guy. Let him through. Don't worry about any paperwork. Don't worry about that.
What? Now, I don't know if you remember. Remember a few days ago, I put up an article. I put up a little. Sometimes I put out these little veiled things. I said, I'm going to talk about something about the spoil system. The spoil system. This is part of the spoil system. Who do you think get these jobs? The connections.
The spoil system, who Kaz Dordry has 100% benefited from the spoil system. This clearly falls in line with that. And this, I got to keep reading. This is so much information. City and state's data analysis also found the average number of days uncredentialed psychologists have worked without a license in the NYPD psychological assessment units is approximately 780 days. 14 were found to have worked uncredentialed for 3 years or more. One has worked without a license or permit for 2,076 days, or almost 6 years. City and state found 4 other unlicensed psychologists, including Radonich, currently doing assessments in the medical unit, which is separate from the candidate assessment division. So, Eric, they're not only involved in the candidate assessment division, they're also in the medical division, which would fall under certain other cases that you might run into with officers that have all kinds of these bogus claims on them thrown on them by the police department because, we need to root out bad actors in the police department, meaning they're just targeting who they don't like. So this is an arbitrary system, and it's coming at taxpayer expense.
Remember, I wrote about this kind of stuff. They weaponize the disciplinary system. They weaponize the hiring practice. They weaponize everything. And it's not a fair process for people. It just isn't. It just isn't.
But crime is down. Crime is down.
Crime is down. People don't want to join the police department. No, they screen people out. We can go on and on with this. This is what this goes into the whole civil service system. Why it was even created in the first place? The spoil system, right? Our political connections. You want a job in a municipality. You give someone money. You do whatever. That's the spoil system, right? This was designed to cut this out. But all this is a recharacterized spoil system. Who's going to challenge the police? Who's going to go to Tish's office and say, you're the police commissioner, you're responsible for all this shit. You're responsible for this. Who's going to be held accountable for all these people working unlicensed?
She's clearly the soccer mom. I don't know. She's like a deer in headlights with this stuff, because this is something very serious, folks. This is going to affect thousands of people. Thousands of people right now have a case right now, just so you know, out there, especially the NYPD, Eric Adams and all his cronies that watch the show too. You better know what you're dealing with. And that's just one mayor. You got to go back. There's 2 other administrations involved in this. Students are allowed to accumulate clinical hours required for their PhDs without a permit, as long as they are closely supervised and identify themselves as interns or psychological assistants. However, the NYPD does not use either to refer to any of its psychological staff who assess candidates on its roster, filled with the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, the city record, unprofessional titles, court filings, paperwork sent out to candidates, notifying them of psychological evaluations, or on the phone list obtained by city and state. No matter what title they have or what exemption they may claim to be credentialed under, psychology students working to attain clinical hours to complete their degrees require supervision under the laws. State statute outlines they must have a mandated hour-long one-on-one meeting with supervisors per week and another hour of mandated group time with the same supervisor. There has been one supervisor for every 5 uncredentialed students in these units over the past decade, according to the Department of Citywide Administrative Services city record. When asked how effective the ratio was, a department spokesperson said in an email, the NYPD meets the requirements for licensed supervision of its psychologists and supervisors review all cases. What do you think of that, Eric? That's a lot.
How the hell can one person review all the cases? They literally see hundreds of people a year. And I'm being conservative, because in order for you to get a class, even a small class, let's say 600, you know how many candidates you have to go through in order to get 600 people?
It's impossible. But it's impossible for one person to do this.
No way. Come on. It's all BS. I like those answers. They know what's coming. They didn't have any answers for this.
No.
They know what's coming.
This is bad. So now the article goes and it's titled, I guess there's a sub paragraph to this. Unlicensed psychologist assessments flagged. Earlier this year, the NYPD tried to force the resignations of 31 officers whose psychological disqualifications were reversed by a NYPD Personnel Division Inspector, Terrell Anderson. The inspector had discovered 80 improper psychological assessments made over the past 3 years. The 31 officers responded with a lawsuit and won a temporary restraining order preventing the department from removing them from duty until the results of a hearing in September. Reverend Kevin McCall, a social justice activist and founder of the Crisis Action Center, a Brooklyn-based organization that advocates for Black and brown law enforcement officers, expressed concern that the psychological assessments might have been used to promote bias. He noted that most of the 80 assessments that were reversed were done by one unlicensed psychologist. What is missing from the narrative surrounding Inspector Anderson's reversals of 80 psych assessments he supervised out of 6,200 is that they were all approved by his superiors in the department, McCall added. The NYPD psychological assessments have raised questions within the police academy. We saw candidates at the academy and wondered how they passed their psych assessment, said Dr. Robert Gonzalez, the NYPD's former assistant commissioner for training from 2014 to 2015. And by everybody, I mean not just the academy staff, but the other recruits too. At some point, we started doing a blind questionnaire and asked, who in your company isn't fit to graduate? And would it always be the same names? There were 1 or 2 in every company of 30. A former officer of the academy confirmed the existence of the questionnaire to city and state and said those recruits were sent back to the medical division for further psychological review.
Okay, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
I take issue with that. You know, I'm going to tell you, when people can sit there and make determinations on who is psychologically unfit, we got a big problem. Now, Rob, I know Rob. Rob was a rookie in a one-on-one when I worked with him in Rockaway. So I take issue with, oh, we looked at the people, and how are you doing a blind list? This tells you the system is broken. That you could sit there and say, oh, that guy's an EDP, or that guy, what? Based on what? Based on your feelings? And then you write something on a piece of paper, and then they refer the person back. This just tell you how bizarre this whole system is. That is improper. And they keep making reference to Terrell Anderson, inspector. He overturned anything. No, what he saw was things that were consistent with bias. For example, oh, the person's immature, whatever. You can say that about a lot of candidates. What does that mean? The bottom line is he didn't overturn anything. What he did is say, hey, I think we need to reevaluate this, meaning we need to take a hard look at this. Not just I'm recommending it should be disregarded because there's reason. And by the way, we know who the psychologist is. They just decided not to put the name in the article. But it's this particular psychologist that turned down mostly all the same candidates, the same guy. And he's not even licensed, by the way.
Oh my God, this is like.
See, I gave you a tip. It's a male, but I know who the person is.
Oh my God, it's like it just gets worse by the second. The more we look at it, this. But I'm going to continue on. This is like an expose inside of an expose here.
Oh yeah.
So this article continues. So that person from the previous person, the former officer at the academy, this is what they said. We would usually see those people back at the academy after being cleared a second time. In one case, a recruit admitted that he couldn't attend morning muster roll call because he had a fear of crowds. Can you believe it? A police officer with agoraphobia, said the former officer who asked not to be identified because of the confidentiality of the assessments. The former officer added that the recruit with the year on the job had a panic attack and crashed the police van he was driving, endangering the lives of other police riding with him and injuring civilians who sued the department and won a money verdict. City and state verified the lawsuit details, but is not disclosing the name of the officer who is no longer a member of the department. City records show. NYPD data obtained by the city and state shows that since January 2015, more than 23,100 candidates graduated from the police academy. So, Eric, right there, you have a sum of people. This guy shouldn't have been a police officer. Somehow they pushed him through, and that's just one of many. So, are you seeing a pattern? Again, this seems to be an arbitrary pattern. And it's run by people that are unlicensed and not supposed to be in that position.
If you think about it, Sal, 23,000 people went into the police academy. So remember, like I told you, there's a ratio, right? Mm-hmm. In order to get 23,000 people, how many people you think were evaluated?
How many out of those? It's saying that again, this seems arbitrary who they evaluate. They're not evaluating everyone.
What I mean is, think about it. In order for you to get one police candidate, when I came on, there used to be 60, 70,000 people trying to apply. Now it's much lower. But even if you took a ratio of half, like they take one out of every two, 50%, which we know they don't. They probably take more like 20% or maybe 25%. So you have at least 4 times the amount of people who are screened in order to get 23,000 people. That's the point. In order to get 23,000 people to go into the academy, you had to screen at least 4 or 5 times that amount. Easy.
At least. Stephen S. says, whoa, this expose is crazy. Speaking as an amateur, of course, can I use the word crazy or do I need a pony degree? I love the people in the comments. Former psychologists speak out. This is more. This one. City and state spoke with 16 former NYPD psychologists who performed assessments, and all but 3 reported a lack of adequate guidance and supervision. They also noted poor working conditions and that they were uncomfortable with such uncertainty on the job. Each asked not to be named for fear of retaliation. That seems to be also a mantra with everything. Everyone's afraid of retaliation because,
No. But the department says there's no retaliation. There's no such thing.
No. Like calling a certain person an insurrectionist when they weren't even in a building on a certain day. Yeah.
Where? No, you weren't. No, you weren't there. Now.
But I'm an insurrectionist, according to many in the police.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, just give me an example. The retaliation. There it is. there are. So this goes on. There are two different kinds of support. There's the kind where leadership does enough to check the box, showing they did the work to offer assistance. And then there is the kind where you fully feel supported without pressure. A former psychologist who is now licensed after working for the Candidate Assessment Division while finishing their clinical hours needed for the degree told City and State. They added they felt overwhelmed by the amount of work required. Another former psychologist who did have their licensure.
But wait, Sal, before you finish, didn't they say that they met the requirements? Right? So how can they supervise this person? Here it is, you have a person saying, I was overwhelmed. Then how could they do the assessments? See?
They can't. They clearly can't. They can't. But if they say that, they're saying they're afraid of being retaliated against. Right. What are they going to do? Maybe they call someone from the Bronx over there in their favorite restaurant to handle their business, the NYPD. They might have been doing it in a different place. Another former psychologist who did have their licensure was more positive about their experience working in Candidate Assessment Unit. However, they did complain about long hours. Suffering through 6 months of back-to-back 12-hour days was a reminder that I was working in a paramilitary organization. That was the only part of the job I didn't like. I would point out, if that's the truth, that person is stashing up money with overtime. There's no way they're working all day, 12-hour days. So you're making 4 hours a day if that's the case.
And more importantly, if they don't see a problem with the process, that's who you don't want as a licensed professional, because they're supposed to be standards, not just make up things as you go along. So they will worry about making the overtime. That's part of what the problem is.
Now, here's a guy that sometimes is conflicted. I think you might have a point here in the article. Advocates for police of color said the results of City and State's findings were not surprising. Patrick Gordon, president of the NYPD Guardians Association, that's where you were once the president, a black fraternal organization, told City and State that his organization has long scrutinized the department's arbitrary nature when it comes to psychological assessments. Before I go on, he's taking that cue from you. That's what he's doing, just so we're clear. Oh, that's the organization's long-standing scrutiny department. That was you that started this, not Patrick Gordon.
So I try to be politically correct here. Let's just say the Guardians has talked about this all the way back into when I was a police officer with Eloise M. Archibald in particular. She under this psychology assessment has always been a subject of bone of contention. Just no one went after it the way I'm doing it, because as my partners will tell you, my old partners will tell you, I said one day, if I become a lawyer, I'm going to attack these apparatus in different ways. And this is one of the things I want to attack. And now you see they've been operating illegally. You can almost guarantee this didn't start in 2012. It goes back much further.
Oh, no. I have a feeling this is when you start peeling back the layers here, like an onion, you keep peeling it and peeling it and peeling it. This goes back quite a ways. I guarantee this is a systematic, this is an institutionalized problem that they've been trying to cover for a long time, because again, it's arbitrary in nature. That's something that you've always stated. You stated to me, you did this when you were the president of the Guardians, and it continues. So all Patrick Gordon is doing is picking up what you were saying and try to run with the ball in a different way now. We'll say
you know what, Sal, if you think about it, the amount of people who had their application disqualified, they appeal to the Civil Service Commission. The Civil Service Commission rubber stamps it and go. They go in there and they testify. This is Dr. So-and-so from a psychological assessment unit or whatever. They always change the names, but it's the same nonsense. But the bottom line is this: they go into court and then they even swear to their doctors and their psychologists. Their title says psychologist. That by definition is a violation of the law. I mean, are you kidding me? This is crazy.
It's also perjury.
They're perpetuating fraud upon the court. Think about the epic proportions of damage that's been done to people in court cases for years.
Yeah, Special Hagen's referring to that too. And she said they haven't done a validation study to determine whether the test is biased or even effective in decades.
But you can't do a validation test because it's not forensic in nature. See, this is what I'm talking about. This assessment here is not forensic. It's clinical. Remember, I told you there's no such thing as a police psychology. I write extensively about this. There are no police examinations. What there are clinical assessments, which are the MMPI, the CPI, and those kind of exams. They ask you what you feel about a certain thing. Then the person interviews you and says, hey, well, how do you feel about this? And why do you say that? Why do you say that? And then they give you assessment of what they think. A forensic test is something where you could take it to 10 different psychologists. They'll come up with the same diagnosis. That's what a forensic test is, whether it's a blood test or what have you. It's not forensic. That's where people get it wrong. It's not forensic. It's clinical. It's an opinion. That's it.
So, and I'm going to get to this now. I want to read it. But John McCarry states, I agree with Patrick Gordon's statement in this article. This is not endorsement of Patrick Gordon, though. Yeah, so I'm going to tend to agree with him here because I'm going to read this. He says, this is from Patrick Gordon in the article. It is deeply concerning to learn that many of our suspicions are correct regarding the unit, he told City and State. The high turnover, lack of supervision, and dependence on non-licensed psychiatrists to make assessments confirms our suspicions and reaffirms that an overhaul of that process is required immediately. I fully agree. He added, it's fair to say that there are potentially thousands of candidates who have been unjustly disqualified by unlicensed, untrained, overworked psychologists over the past decade. I think he's actually wrong. It's more than a decade. They need to focus on, this is probably an institutional problem, meaning it goes back many decades. It's not just
Sal, and we're just talking about the disqualification. What about the people that have been qualified and they're now working as police officers? That's a bigger problem. That's a whole public safety issue.
I see that. And Special Hagen says, if it's clinical and these people are unlicensed, then it's even more troubling.
So people know, most of these psychologists, reason why they're psychologists, because they're not medical doctors. They don't give medication. But the overwhelming majority of them are clinicians. That's what they are, clinicians, meaning tell me how you feel. Because by definition, forensic would have to be a medical doctor. It would have a different analysis. That's my point.
You imagine? Termination is based on feelings. Where have we seen that one before?
Oh, yeah.
That's a dangerous road. But the police, the NYPD loves to go down that road based on feelings. And then, we didn't say that. That's not true. Oh, but your conduct, the way you are behaving, that's based on feelings, right? Your conduct. No. NYPD, no, we don't do that. So this continues. NYPD Captain Derby St. Fort, I don't know if you remember him, but he was mired in his own controversy, who works on police reform efforts with the Justice Ambassadors Youth Council at Columbia University, told City and State that the screening and hiring process used by the department needs to be more equitable and inclusive, and credited Anderson for seeking to change the process. He pushed for reform by implementing procedures to support a more diverse pool of candidates and work to address discriminatory and unbalanced patterns, many shaped by a lack of cultural awareness and implicit bias, Derby told City and State via text message. He also recognized how past quota systems and over policing strategies led to the disqualification of individuals who aspire to become officers and serve the very communities they grew up in. These are the last couple pages, last paragraphs, very small. Clergy members from across the city have united behind Anderson after he was removed from his command in the personnel unit and brought up on department charges. That's insane. Earlier this week, they sent a letter to the NYPD Commissioner, Jessica Tisch, documenting their support. The NYPD psych assessment process has been and continues to present serious and substantial issues that cry out for systematic change, said civil rights attorney Norman Siegel, who brought about the creation of the Civilian Complaint Review Board, the NYPD's oversight board. This could be the time for that long overdue change. And remember, Norman Siegel, I believe, was Eric Adams' attorney back in the day, just so you know. Shout out to Kelly Grace Price for writing this expose, because this is a blueprint on a future class action suit.
And so you guys know, when I spoke to her, because I kind of did, I almost let the cat out of the bag before, and then I kind of held it back. But she got the inspiration from actually reading the blog about the uniform guidelines. And with Anderson, that's what developed the interest. See, something like this is not something you would see in like the Post or the Daily News. You would have to have a writer, an investigative type writer. I mean, the average reporter is writing 2, 3, 4 stories sometime a day. So they don't have the time to do this. This literally took weeks. And really, this can be even a stronger piece, but they wrote some stuff about it, but it's not as pointed as it could have been. Let's just put it that way.
I know. Well, but it's very damaging. It's an indictment of the whole process. The candidate assessment division, the medical division, the police commissioners. Other than partying, I mean, for the last couple of weeks, where have these guys been? All the police commissioners. I mean, this one seems to be a deer in headlights. She is the soccer mom. She doesn't know what's going on. She's not a cop. She never was. So she wouldn't understand any of this stuff. This even brought to her attention. She's silent. She's running around electioneering for Eric Adams, basically. Oh, yeah, crime is down. You know, what crime is down? This crazy narrative. Look at your own institution, how it's being run. You know, you just terminated a lieutenant because you said, oh, this guy was stealing overtime. You have an entire staff of people that allowed this to happen still underneath you, still haven't suspended anyone. No investigations. It's just everything was just, we'll use that one lieutenant as a scapegoat. We'll use Paul Saraceno as the fall guy, and there's no mention of anything else. So just let's hope everything goes away. That's basically her whole MO with that whole thing.
Well, here's your controversy now. She said 50,000 hours of overtime was earned by people who are not credentialed. Now, how much money is that?
Oh, God.
Where's the scandal? No one even knew about it until we started talking about it.
50,000 hours in overtime. And we don't even know the pay scale. Probably for a psychiatrist or psychologist would be very high. Yeah, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they were crying about the budget. Remember? That whole budget.
Millions.
Remember?
Millions. Mm-hmm.
And remember, Kinsella sat there. Well, I'm in charge of this, but you can't even control that animal next to you, Jeffrey Madry. Now you think they're going to be controlling this the psychologist?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is the infamous list that they put out, right?
Yeah.
Of course, everyone but Epps. They made a big deal about Epps in that hit piece from the New York Post that, I don't know if they work in coordination with Tish and Eric Adams. All these people, nothing happened to them underneath them.
Nope. But remember, Sal, this has been going on since at least 2013. They have the data, and I put it on my website right from the controls office. Billions of dollars been wasted. Excuse me. And no one has ever had a clawback. They never investigate anybody. They're full of it. They're selective enforcement business.
There is. The loan silencers terminate someone for stealing overtime, which had to be signed off by someone. Yet no termination of people hanging out with people more than likely involved in human trafficking. It makes sense. And I know who he's referring to. He's referring to the great mob associate and self-admitted criminal of the Bronx who ran the infamous nightclub with the cabans named Conso Frito. That's just one. Here's one instance of like highlighted corruption. Here we have an outright fraud of the defrauding the public, stealing their money. They cry up there in the budget committees, we need money for the police department. And then they allocate it to BS like this. BS like this. They're funding unlicensed psychologists. And then what do? They go out there and they crush these people and they arbitrarily pick who they want to be working, who they deem is fit. And the person evaluating you is not even a licensed psychologist. So you're talking to someone. It's like you're talking to someone. This is almost like a HIPAA violation. You're talking to someone who's not a doctor. Not a doctor. So, and then they claim they are, which is
yeah, and they're reviewing your medical records and everything. I mean, I'm telling you, this is a big problem.
No, this is a major problem, right?
All they need is people to come forward and start going after the department because guess what? They'll say, oh, it's past the statute of limitation. No, it's not. Fraudulent concealment.
Oh.
That's what you have there. Fraudulent concealment. These theoretically, now that the public has notice, you could sue from this point going back now.
Oh, yeah. I would be calling up. There's plenty of witnesses. Take the candidate assessment division. take the medical division, people that were in charge, right? You have all these different people. I would be looking into all of them. Here, Pat Lynch is too busy. He can't defend the cops for 20 years. He's too busy partying with mob associates. That was his whole MO.
You know what's funny? I remember when he ran on his platform. It's funny because I was still a police officer then, and they were changing out Phil Caruso because Phil Caruso got into problems with the PBA funds and Richie Hartman and all those kind of people. This goes back. A lot of these people don't know about this stuff, but that's how Patrick Lynch got into power. And we're going to what do they call them? The blue team or whatever. I don't know what the hell they call them. They came in, they did the same exact thing that the outgoing Phil Caruso and his team did, except they didn't get caught stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars and gambling in Lancaster City. But other than that, it's the same thing. Nothing. You're going to release job, you get double your pay, and then no one challenges this stuff. No one challenges this.
Yeah. So Mara Cohen said, where was Patty when you needed him, Sal? Forget about my own case. Think about all these people right here. Candidates, people in the medical division. They've been defrauded by the police department. This proves it. Where was the union for those cops? The cops right now that were terminated for what? Some psychological exam. I mean, they were trying to railroad they're on the job now. Where was the union stepped in after all the pressure, but they weren't. They initially were just doing we hang out at Con Sofrito with these people. We can't go after our friends. That's part of the problem. And I want to touch up on one thing here. You mentioned Letitia James, right? So I have an article from Newsmax that came out very, I think it was today. And it starts with the Trump, Letitia James, a disgrace, points to alleged bank cover-up. So I think this is why we don't hear from her. This article is by Sandy Fitzgerald. On Wednesday, President Trump took the Truth Social to attack New York Attorney General Letitia James based on a report on allegations she ignored evidence of $9.6 billion in sanctions violations. She is a disgrace, Trump posted, along with a link to a news article from the Gateway Pundit that details a case now before the U.S. Second Circuit involving Standard Chartered Bank, SCP, and its New York City branch. The bank is accused of allegedly funneling at least $9.6 billion in illicit payments to Iranian and Hezbollah-linked entities in payments reportedly uncovered in internal trade records provided by whistleblowers. The report suggests these sanctions may be just the tip of the iceberg, hinting at over $100 billion in further illicit transfers from SCP's China operations, which facilitate dollar-based trades for oil and other war materials. The outlet claims that in early 2024, James and senior staff, including Deputy Bureau Chief Scott Spiegelman, were briefed twice by whistleblowers and terrorism finance experts on the scheme. But rather than take action, James's office is said to have renewed SCB's state banking license, even though the payments were not disclosed in prior sanctions settlements. The report also highlights Spiegelman's later move to IBM, which allegedly advised SCB on how to conceal his trade data. Gateway Pundit further reported that both the Federal Reserve and SWIFT failed to block these transactions despite knowledge of Office of Foreign Assets Control, OFAC sanctions, effectively undermined the U.S. maximum pressure campaign. It called for federal prosecutors to take action, specifically urging D.C. USA and Southern District of New York to prosecute SCB for breaching its deferred prosecution agreement, urging Treasury to reclaim sanction enforcement authority from the Fed and seeking over $10 billion in penalties from SCB. So, Eric, if she doesn't have the problem with the mortgage fraud, we've uncovered that she's definitely something going on with the aforementioned mob associate, self-made criminal Jimmy Rodriguez, and that whole whoever was covering up or doesn't want to look at that human trafficking report by the NYPD there. Now you have her basically essentially running cover for foreign governments and agents and entities that do not like this country. So this woman is highly conflicted. I don't know. I doubt she'll be able to look at anything that we were discussing today. She's got to worry about her own hide.
Yeah, it's sad. It's people You get themselves all caught up in these things. And see, when you start doing political favors for people, that's when you run into these problems. That's why it gets back to the police officer as an example. And they say, oh, he's so popular. Anyone who's popular is a problem, because that means they're not doing their job. If you're doing your job fairly, people are going to like what you do and they're going to dislike what you do. But if they love you so much, you're the sucker at the door. That's what it boils down to.
Oh my God!
You can't serve all masters. I say that all the time. You can't.
No, absolutely not. You can't. How do you do this? I mean, it's not a popularity contest. So sometimes you got to do the job. Her job is neglecting things, whether willingly or unwillingly, or a willing participant. She's incompetent, and whether she's corrupt. But all of this stuff will be looked at and investigated. But I think there's enough to say she definitely does not deserve to be reelected. I don't know if she should remain in office under these scandals underneath her, because clearly she's going to miss the boat on this clear violation. This is going on decades. And I don't know, the state needs to go in there. Bragg is missing. She's missing. I don't know where the feds are at, because we can't touch Eric Adams. He's the chosen one. He's the golden child for Trump. So I don't know. I don't know, where do you go for justice here? Where do you go for justice for all these people that were terminated or arbitrarily overlooked? So I actually agree. That whole argument that Patrick Gordon made and those people making, they're 100% correct. I don't know if you're just representing one client or you might be representing a bunch. I don't know.
Remember, Anderson, I represented him from the beginning, so I'm definitely going to notify the court about this problem, because this is a problem. And I'm sure the court will be interested to know that she's holding herself out to be a doctor, made an assessment of the client, and she's not a doctor. So I'm going to notify the court with some kind of filing. And I look forward to hearing from other people about this, and I'm going to put something else about this to try to find other people to try to take the system and right size it the way it's supposed to be. It's long overdue.
Yeah, Anthony DiMaggio, who I think he was in his department, he came on to discuss this whole psychological thing, which falls in line with what the NYPD's been doing. He says, check that link out. Those are the results of my MMPI exam. That's what the department does when you catch them targeting you. You go to the shrink to be diagnosed with paranoia. Yeah, that's what these guys. That's technically what some of.
And remember what the MMPI stands for. That's the Minnesota Personality Inventory. See, remember I told you it's clinical. It's not forensic. It's not designed to give you diagnosis.
Yeah, this is something else. Before, of course, I let you go, because I know you're busy, because now you got a bunch of new clients probably knocking on the door after today. Obviously, a couple weeks ago, there was an incident online. We're going to do my own case here we're talking about. So we had an unhinged chief of department, John Schell, who I understand is a little inebriated at times while working, but we'll leave it at that. John Schell came out and posted some things attacking John McCarry, Eric Dim, but started on me. And at an article that I had reposted that stated that he took money from Dr. Phil for his appearances, his expenses, he turns around and then writes online, hashtag you're fired. Of course, John, it's you're fired with an E. He wrote that on there. And then I filed an internal affairs complaint on John Schell, because now he will be thrown into the litigation, Eric. I don't know if you want to explain this and how we're going to move forward with that and what's going on with my entire case here.
Yeah, I don't want to tip the hand as far as what I think I'm going to do about that problem, because we kind of already discussed it. But I want to say it from the police department's point of view as a person who is in law enforcement. Back when I was still on, it was frowned upon to do a lot of things you see people doing today. Social media, all this self-promotion stuff was frowned upon. Now it's just the norm. Executives say all kinds of off-the-wall stuff. They have like no control over people. I mean, I don't understand. He should be embarrassed for himself, but the mayor should be embarrassed for him. The police commissioner should be embarrassed for him. I don't understand why this guy's even still around. He's an embarrassment. That is not the definition of executive. You look up at executives, they're different people. They're supposed to project this great image. And this guy's like a clown. He's a clown. And I don't understand him. And he's got the nerve to interact with a person who has a pending civil rights case right now against the city of New York. And then going to get him dragged himself into this case or drag the city into another case. I mean, I don't understand that.
You know what, Eric? To make matters worse, technically, when he goes after John McCarry, John himself has his own civil rights case against the city. So technically, he's attacking two people. There he is, asleep behind the soccer mom at a committee hearing. Apparently, that doesn't get you terminated either. But if a cop is looking, has white socks.
You're assuming he's asleep. He's inattentive. Why he's that way is another story. He could be sick. He could be asleep. He could be intoxicated. Who the hell knows, right?
Yeah.
But we know one thing. In our days, that was frowned upon.
Oh, yeah.
You would take a hit for that one, especially he's an executive too at a city council meeting. No respect for the process. Just this is why the police department's become a clown outfit. It's sad to say that too, because like I said, I would go back to the police department now. It was a fun job to me, but these guys did so much damage. This is going to take 30, 40, 50 years to try to repair this garbage. It's just ridiculous.
Easy. But I guess now, and so addressing the John Shell part, which, by the way, I want to throw out there, he's also being investigated for taking a security detail. But now, I don't know if he's off duty or not, but he's at a golf course with Kaz Daughtry. John Shell is pictured with President Donald Trump. Now, the last time I checked, whether people like to hear this or not, Donald Trump is a convicted felon. So if he's around someone who's reasonably believed to have engaged in or likely to have engaged in criminal activity, why is he not being treated the way Sal Greco was treated for associating with Trump's friend, Roger Stone? Isn't that interesting? That's a very interesting picture. I didn't know that you could associate with people that are convicted felons as long as you're an executive.
And that's why the disparity system is bullshit. It's just weaponized against people. That's all it is. This has nothing to do with fairness. I mean, just looking at just your case, just talking about a little bit about it, that's why I'm hoping the court is going to let us get to Sewell, because she's going to have to answer a serious question. Because assuming there was a violation sustained, even though the investigators couldn't even tell us what knowingly means, and they certainly couldn't tell us what a criminal association means. And then if there's pictures of people, depends on the context. But when it came to Sal Greco, it's obvious. This is criminal association. It violates the rules. But even their matrix says that it was a 30-day penalty. So then how does Sal Greco get terminated? She made an arbitrary decision because it's not written anywhere. What was the factor that enhanced the penalty? It's a farce. The whole system is a farce. But all too often the courts has given deference to the police department. Oh, the paramilitary. No, it's not. It's a clown outfit. It's only paramilitary in some parts. In most parts, it's a clown outfit. It's sad to say it, but it's the truth. And I love the police department. This is why I'm so critical of it. If I didn't love it, I would never deal with it. I would completely disassociate myself from it. But the people who complain about it, because we point out these things, you're against the job. No, we're for the job. We're trying to get the clowns out. Although it's like pushing sand on the beach, but we keep trying anyway because we're optimists. I don't know why, but we are optimists.
Listen, I think in this case, I don't know where Eric Adams, the way I'm being led to believe, it is Adams himself who's holding up the fort. He's got personal thing against you and I, from what I've been told. That's why this case, and they've stalled at every single corner with this case. They've stalled. We should have even deposed Sewell a long time ago, and that in itself, what's being litigated right now in front of the judge is the fact that part is not We're supposed to have Sewell, who now the number one question, Eric, with Sewell is going to be after the Tom Donlin bombshell lawsuit and the other executives that are involved. And irrespective of, I know how people feel about them personally, forget the feelings, what they allege in there. Tom Donlin saying there's rubber stamping of things. He's not even around. They're rubber stamping transfers, terminations, promotions. So how long did this occur? And did it occur under Sewell, who apparently stamped her name on my termination? And then on people like Kaz Daughtry, someone else stamped their name on his violation.
Yeah, Pintos. Mm-hmm.
Pintos signed that. So I don't know how any of this works. It's very important that people keep an eye on this because remember, we just exposed a whole thing with the medical division, candidate assessment division. They've, for decades, let people who are not doctors or psychologists evaluate people, and they make arbitrary decisions. Just like you could be pictured with someone where someone who's a high-end executive is pictured with the same person or someone in the same orbit, same argument, convicted felon. He's not disciplined. The other one is terminated. How does this work? It's a supposed to be equal opportunity job. This isn't like you're working at McDonald's. So I don't understand how taxpayers aren't infuriated over this. This should be things that are election issues. Again, this is all occurring under one man. So far, all this stuff coming out. Eric Adams was taking the brunt of this, whether he deserves it or not. He wasn't around or not. But the answer clearly, in my opinion, it's the election of the mayor of New York City is anybody but Eric Adams, who I heard Corey Pegues the other day say on Finest Unfiltered. I mean, look at this guy, Eric. This guy pled guilty. His life is ruined, Mohammed Bahi, yet Eric is walking around free. And that's the repercussions of letting him off his case the way that happened. Emo Bov is now a judge because of that. Yet this man's life is ruined, and he's taken a light sentence, but Eric, he's still a convicted felon. He's a convicted felon for life. And this guy who's, I don't know, there's even more stuff that came out with Eric in regards of that Project Veritas thing that involves Bill Barr, Armstrong Williams, who's someone I know, Eric, the Turkish thing of Qatar government, which would factor in the Eddie Caban visit to Qatar, and then the whole January 6th thing, which also featured me and Roger and Trump, and it all feels connected. But yet I know anybody but Eric Adams for mayor. That's really the answer in New York City.
That's actually pretty funny. You know, it's sad because, you know, I remember when I saw him coming up, we came up around the same time. And the bottom line is he went one way, I went another way. James Davis was going on that same. And of course, you know, James Davis was killed in City Hall. So these guys all came up around the same time. And, you know, and in a lot of ways, I wish we actually could have worked better together because we could have got a lot of things accomplished. But, you know, petty things, you know, just interfere. And I'm not a petty guy. I work with everyone. I don't care who you are. It doesn't matter to me.
Well, but, I could tell from this case, the only person I could tell who clearly petty, that's Eric Adams. Petty, you know, remember the words used behind the scenes, Eric, is I'm going to starve Sal Greco out. That is from Eric Adams' mouth to some of those cronies he thinks are his friends, roaming around with him, partying with him with Jimmy Rodriguez. He thinks those people are his friends.
But see, the problem is because they're assuming I'm like every other attorney. Their problem is, and my problem is, I'm pretty loyal. Not a pretty loyal, I'm a loyal person. So if I take you on as a client, believe me, I'm going to go to the bitter end. Good, bad, or indifferent. So believe me, that won't work.
Yeah, I remember that in my case and many cases that you have represent many that also stand behind, meaning they have their own cases, things can move forward. They have, if this falls, they could also have a case. So it matters, and that you take cases that are groundbreaking that'll change the system. This clearly is beyond an injustice, and the way this is unfolded with me, seriously, Eric Adams is to look at himself in the mirror. He actually had a chance to do the right thing here, but he just went along with everyone else, with all his other cronies telling him, "Oh, we got to save face here because it was in the Daily News." And look how that worked out. Whose words were right? Eric Adams saying the Daily News. Sal Greco made the Daily News, so I can't do anything about this. Or my words back to them. Which were,
Wait, do you see the comment that's up? You see the comment that's up?
Adams was always, Nighthawk. Adams was always a hater of Eric Sanders. He tried to follow Sanders' blueprint, but just the problem was it was straight shooter and one wasn't. He's saying straight shooter.
They always knew I was honest. See, that's the problem. I was very straight shooter. You can't buy me. You can't sell me on anything. Nope. I'm not. I'd rather be dead. You're not going to do that to me.
We all know Eric Adams loves to be, you could sell him on anything, especially if you're from a foreign government. Tom Joyce chimed in here. So he said something. He said,
Tito's and a shorty.
Tom Joyce says, truth, Mr. Sanders, we care because we love it so much, and my little leaguers are now cops, detectives, and sergeants now. We all do. That's the point. We're doing this because we care. If we didn't care, I'd just stay quiet. And what? Nothing would change. Everything you're seeing is finest unfiltered. All these people involved here, that's why everything is changing. Everything's happened for a reason. And actually, thanks to Eric Adams, everybody came together. So he actually did something good. He almost kind of created what's going on today with myself, with Eric Dim, John McCarry, Marlon Bethel, all people that he discarded, right? We don't discard people. I didn't even get to another thing, Juanita Holmes.
That's right. Don't discard people, right?
Don't discard people. Remember that one? Juanita Holmes at the police academy. She let Cardi B run around. We don't discard people, Eric Adams. You clearly discard people. You've discarded so many people, I've lost count. And you let the cronies run the asylum, just like you said today. It's a clown outfit. It's an abuse, and this is a special Hagen. We are seeing an abuse of power, corruption, and unrivaled incompetence under this administration. So anyone that screams Mamdani, we'll go back in time. And I'll tell you, I was big on this, and people got mad at me. Certain people that, live in the Bronx, and, they could say a lot about them, but you can't have, imagine this, going back to September, October, November, December, January. Eric Adams is facing an indictment. It is so compelling, he should step down. He should be forced to step down. Or he doesn't want to step down. Let the trial go on. He'll be found guilty. He'll have to leave office thinking he's going to go to jail, which would have happened by now, sentencing. He's out of office. You have Giovanni Williams as the temporary mayor. Same policy that it doesn't matter. He's the same as Eric Adams, but he's a prolific cop hater, even though he's surrounded by them. But he is very much aligned with Zoran Mamdani. New York City would have had a temporary stay with a guy who is like Mamdani and Giovanni Williams. You would have been crying for a Republican or Curtis Lewa after a few months of that. But no, you had advocates screaming, we can't have Giovanni Williams. Really low information people, like the gutter trash of low information saying this. But now if you look at it, had Trump not gotten involved for whatever financial gain he wanted, and Emo Bove and Boris Epstein, all these people involved, you would have had Giovanni Williams. Right now, New York City would have already gotten a taste of what it's like to have somebody who really has a socialist/communist view. And you would have been barreling towards a Curtis Lewa mayoralship by default. Instead, you're struggling and fighting, and now you're going to get, more than likely, 4 years of that, if not more, under a Mayor Mamdani, because you got involved with Eric. He would have been removed. He would have went to prison where he belongs, a criminal, and you would have had a socialist mayor for 7 to 8 months, which would have said, we want a Republican. Instead, you got this. You look back, who was right? Sal Greco, all those people that were screaming at the time, we can't. Eric's the only kid. Eric Adams has destroyed this city. And New York City is so fiscally in arrears, and I don't know what's going to happen in the future. You got to worry about pensions. This guy is about to bankrupt the city. Class action lawsuits. He sold the city out left and right. You already have 6 grocery stores giving out free stuff. They want these city-owned grocery stores. Everything Mamdani's saying, Eric Adams has done. He's defunded the police. He's destroyed the police. He's cost the city money. All his cronies got either indicted, arrested, or they're being investigated. What's worse? Oh, now Mamdani's supposed to be worse. when you could have had it with him out of office, where he rightfully should have been in jail already. That's my take, Eric, on that. I think he's being petty because our own case, he should look into, I'm going to starve Sal Greco out. And in the background, I have a hit list. 1 is Sal Greco and 1A is Eric Sanders. This is petty nonsense. He's lucky he is still.
Why? I'm a nice guy, though. I could work with anyone. But that hit list thing actually came up in Chief Markman. This is a little bit before your time, but they were actually able to establish in an NYPD lawsuit that he did have a hit list of officers to go after. And the city had to wind up paying millions for that. But yeah, Eric, I'm still waiting for them to call me. It's not like they don't know how to find me. Believe me, they know how to find me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm from the same. I came up with all these people. Holmes and I, we worked in a one-on-one together. So, I know them all. So there's ways a lot of these things could have been done that, sometimes you work with people that you don't have to agree with them all the time, but it's for the greater good. But I'm a utilitarian by nature. I don't believe in retribution and all that kind of business. A lot of these people are that way. They believe retribution. He's not part of my team and all this other kind of nonsense. I'm not like that. I work with everyone. I don't care where you're from, honestly.
Yeah, except you end up on Eric Adams' dream team list there. You got to go after these people. We're going to ignore them. I know John and Eric and Curtis were also on that list. I believe Curtis was underneath you or me, but we were 1 and 1A, all because of the expose. And this is coming from, once again, Eric's cronies around him. They have Eric's got a big mouth. I think he kind of quieted down when he got indicted, but he's a little brazen again. And remember that's a byproduct of what happened in New York City. Needs to look at themselves in the face, because the public should have been screaming that you wanted him out of office. And now you're going to get what you would have had temporarily and you would have been able to fix. Instead, you were screaming, no Jumaane Williams. Now you're getting Mamdani, who's 20 times worse. Right now, that's what you're facing. It's going to be an uphill battle.
Either way, we'll survive. So it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, we're all going to survive. Believe me. The way the Constitution and the way the way the Constitution and the way governments are structured, no one person can control anything anyway. So it almost doesn't even matter to you.
Oh yeah, you'll survive any mayor.
But there's 2:45, so I gotta get going. But anyway, been nice chit chatting with you. So
yeah. So, but listen, thanks for coming on. Where can people find you on X and that?
You can find me. Google me. You can find me at the Sanders Firm PC on the website. I do a lot of stuff. You can read a lot of free legal stuff. I give a lot of information because I believe that hiring a lawyer is a very important decision, and the most you can get free information, get as much as you can before you decide to hire an attorney. So that's where you can find me. And of course, you call me with things. If you have attorney-client privilege, I talk to I don't know how many people during the course of a week. But just because I don't take your case doesn't mean that I won't give you advice to help you with your legal problem. Because in some respects, people don't need lawyers. I'll just tell you how to fix it.
Exactly. I think giving a lot of advice out in the last couple of months alone that's helped out a lot of people. Just so you know. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for clarifying all these things, and I wish you good luck with that lawsuit. I'll definitely keep an eye on that and the whole corrupt system that involves psychologists and all that nonsense, because this is just another spoken wheel of how corrupt this whole system is in New York City.
All right. Take it easy. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. So there you have it. The lot was said there. Is a lot covering a lot of things. I'm sure there's going to be more to come in the future, but that was a great groundbreaking segment there. We broke this whole story with the psychologist. That is crazy, and I'm sure John and Eric tomorrow will have a lot more to say about that, because it proves a lot of their points. Thanks everyone in the comments too for positive stuff. Great show from Samara Cohen. Tabitha Foster says, thanks for bringing up my dear friend, Councilman James E. Davis. Yeah, I remember that incident too, that happened in City Hall. But Eric Adams kind of forgets where he comes from. That's basically what it is. Special Higgins is very helpful. Thanks for the advice. So, yeah, but now everybody's favorite part of the show, the producer's take with Jack. I'm sure Jack heard all of that and must have been like, oh my God, because your parents still live in New York, so their taxes will be going to paying for all this grant stuff. So.
Yeah, well, I think two things. First, and we'll get to this more in a second, I want to give a little bit of the history of civil service exams and why they need to be abolished, because it's one of those things that was designed for one purpose, but has long, long outlived it. But before I get to that, Eric kept repeatedly bringing up a very good point that had me thinking a little bit. He said, it's bad that police officers now are more focused on being friends with the community as opposed to actually policing. It's weird because in the 2000s, the NYPD, and Sal, you know this because you were on the street in the 60th precinct, all around the city, dealing with crime, broken windows, all that good stuff. Back in the 2000s, cops were very adamant about enforcing the law, shaking people down, enforcing broken windows, with the hopes that small offenses that they were catching would lead to them catching larger ones. You fast forward a decade or two, things are completely different. You see cops at like wrap-off battles with the Community Affairs Bureau. They're being friends with people in the community, handing out pizza. I think this is a classic example of overcompensation. When they were very strict about policing broken windows in the 2000s, people were pulling out the racism card. They were saying they were being unfair and hostile to the community. And the mayors, the people in power, especially Bill de Blasio and James O'Neill, because that was kind of the tandem to me that indicated a real changing of the tide. They decided to change the way things were done in the city, and that's led to all of the issues with high crime, with junkies shooting up on the street, people getting robbed in broad daylight. There became a point in time where people were so hostile to the police and adamant about insisting that they don't enforce all these low-level laws anymore, that instead the police just got scared to do their job, and they still haven't really gone back to doing it. And to me, that's the stem and the root of all the problems in New York, because they're kind of hesitant, especially the old school guys who grew up in the old system and have now had to try and adapt. They're scared to do their job.
I know. A lot of people are afraid to do their job. I, for one, think you can be doing your job, remain friendly. A lot of cops are friendly. I wouldn't say like, okay, I'm going to come over your house and eat dinner. I'm saying you're friendly in that when you do your job, you could give your business card or something, with those cards they give us, the police department, the gas station guy. Listen, you have a problem. I work. This is my shift. You call me. If anyone comes here giving you a problem, you let me know right away. Like that's something that I was big on. I didn't do it myself. I just always roamed around and would just pop in. I need a bottle of water. I go in. How's everything, Joe, Jack, Mary? How's everything here? Everything all right? Yeah, having any problems? Or sometimes they'd say there have been problems. He could show me camera footage. And then I would wait around, and sometimes I would run into the guy giving him a problem. And you get a summons or whatever has to be done gets done. But that's kind of the way you police community-wise. So that's a police thing. You could keep that professional. I wouldn't say you could be friendly. I just don't think, it's like Eric's saying, like, you don't go to the Jonas Brothers concert and then brag about it like you're chief of department on your personal camera. Just saying. That's the kind of thing we're trying to say. That should be frowned upon.
Well, remember in the 2000s, the cops were issuing summonses regularly for marijuana, and then all of a sudden they weren't allowed to enforce it anymore. And all of a sudden you were getting a contact high every single time you walked down the street. You would think that Bob Marley practically pitched a tent in Central Park, in Prospect Park, wherever it might be, because it's stenched of marijuana so badly. So that was one example. The drug thing too. I mean, people were using drugs out in open air, and then Bill de Blasio came up with the recommendation that we create safe injection sites. So there was this real destigmatization. I'm pronouncing it wrong. They destigmatized all of these small things like drug usage, crossing the street when the light was red, smoking marijuana. And then all of a sudden they didn't become crimes. And then all of a sudden we weren't able to catch the larger crimes. So that was kind of like a big stem in the root of the problem. Eric Sanders, though, when he was on, also mentioned the Civil Service Commission. Guys, civil service exams were implemented in Imperial China from 500 to 600 CE, tens of thousands of years ago, to try and create a fair hiring practice that was not created based on connections. Like you weren't supposed to use word of mouth. It was supposed to be totally fair. In the United States, this became common practice in the late 1800s, early 1900s. But Sal, now we're a decade later, people have found loopholes in the system, whether it be bribing people to get up on these lists, using a connection to bypass the list entirely. I've heard of people getting hired who aren't even on civil service lists. So like the idea of having this outdated concept of an exam that doesn't really test candidates' qualifications and their ability to do a job is total bogus for me. And in the NYPD, we're using promotional exams for sergeant, lieutenant, captain, and then from then on, it's a discretionary process, which Ron and Rob noted last night on the Executive Perspective. There's pretty much no transparency about how it actually works. So my challenge to the NYPD, New York City, anyone else who still uses civil service exams and these antiquated techniques. I know the MTA is using signals that were built before World War I. That's maybe why they're having infrastructure issues, among other things. But evolve with the times, do things differently, have a method for rewarding cops on the street for doing a good job by promoting them to sergeant. Don't just do it based off a civil service exam. The idea of civil service exams is totally ridiculous because it's unable to measure how candidates are able to perform in a real life setting. And that's part of the reason that the department is having some of the problems they're having right now is they're not getting people who are qualified.
That's true. All right, Frankie Pagliucci gave $9.99 to the podcast. Shout out to you, Frank. He says, like the random drug test. I'm going to be having espresso on you in a little bit, Frankie. I personally were thinking about class action suits. I was thinking about the drug tests. I'm thinking about the medical division, which now has a two-pronged problem. One with the random drug test and how the test itself is flawed. And they fired people. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's going to come out of that. Now with these psychologists that clearly they're not even licensed, they're not psychologists, they're not doctors. This is a problem. And it goes from the medical division and also candidate assessment and decades worth of problems there. So no matter who was working there, I don't know if they knew about this or didn't know about these psychologists, but clearly this is an institution problem. And the police department was caught, cat caught their tongue today in the city and state. That was an expose like I've never seen before. And Eric Sanders is going to eat their lunch like always. But the question is, how many other people are going to come forward because they have a suit? Thousands of cops, Jack, or candidates were giving their personal info, medical history to someone who's not licensed. I can't believe that. That is sticking out to me over and over again. Imagine you're sitting down telling someone you think is a psychologist or a doctor, I have this problem, I have that problem. Nobody knows this problem. Wait, you're not a licensed doctor. Who is this person? That means that they could go around and tell people your business because they're not licensed. It's all done under basically it's a false pretense. This is unbelievable. This was earth-shattering stuff. I didn't expect that article to come down. Eric might have known a thing or two about it, but that was groundbreaking stuff there, Jack.
No, it certainly was. And when John Scola came on the show a while back, he made the point that the NYPD can legally make a lot of changes in terms of how they do hiring, manage internal disputes, but they decide not to and instead use their resources on a legal team to try and find loopholes in the system and circumvent it entirely. When you do the math and calculate the amount of money that these lawsuits are going to end up costing the department and the city as a whole, I do believe that it would be cheaper just to try and fix the system. The problem is they have the wrong people in leadership positions. They're not appointing those who are actually qualified. And as a result, the system has a low probability of ever changing. You need to have a mindset that you're going to make wholesale changes in the way things are being run because it hasn't been sufficient. It hasn't worked. So you need to look at how people are hired. You need to look at how people are promoted. You need to look at how people are managed in terms of disciplinary issues, because that's obviously been a big problem over the past couple of months, like the moving around of the strike zone and like the different set of rules if you're in general population versus being a crony of Mayor Adams or anyone else. So yeah, I mean, I'm challenging the department to do a lot of things differently and to look in the mirror first to say our system hasn't worked for years. It's getting our city in a lot of trouble. it's going to end up costing our taxpayers, many of whom are fleeing or have fled or planning to flee once Mamdani probably gets elected. Like, it's going to end up continuing to fall on them. So how are we going to be able to sustainably cover all of these expenses with taxpayer money? The answer is you're not. So you need to make changes. I just don't know how self-aware the department is. Do they think they're doing a good job and they're just smelling their own aroma, or do they have their head buried in the sand and are totally ignorant about what's going on? I mean, it really brings up a lot of questions for me, but they have to make changes in order to find any real solutions. That's the one common denominator with all of these problems, whether it be Faison, candidate assessment, Quatisha apps, anything. You need to look in the mirror and look at how you're doing all these things, how you're managing people.
Or the soccer mom herself, Jessica Tisch. Bronx bred box trucker says the wrong people are in place because friends and family get positioned before qualified individuals. He's 100% right. Stephen S. The challenge has been Mad Dad Shack has thrown down the gauntlet. Curtis Cleaver can make those changes. He knows the problems better than any candidate. I'm actually going to end the show with we're going to play that video, Jack, at the end. I'm going to sign off and play a video of Curtis Cleaver recently and what he said. And then, of course, you could all see your favorite esteemed mayor and his wonderful comments to a slew of people. I don't know if they were low information or not, but they were cheering for what he said at that time. But before you go, Jack, the Mets lost another brutal game last night. They were up 6-0. This organization needs an overhaul, I think. Not from top to bottom. I think who's running it, I don't know if it's the manager. No starter goes 5 innings. They went from 24 games over 500. Jack, I'm predicting they're going to probably hit 500. The Marlins might overtake them. I'm rooting for the Marlins, man. They're underdog.
Yeah, so, I mean, the issue with the Mets is kind of the magic carpet that they were riding on early in the season just fell out from right underneath them, right? Like, they were getting unusually good production out of Pete Alonso, out of some of the secondary players. Brett Beatty comes to mind as well. And then when that stopped, when the rotation really started to struggle, things just imploded entirely from within. And you saw it on display last night, right? You had a 6-0 lead heading into the top half of the 4th inning. Peterson gives up 4 runs before I can even turn around. And then next thing you know, Michael Harris hits a go-ahead grand slam. The Braves are up by 3 runs. They score 2 more. 11 unanswered runs against a team that's, I believe, 16 games below 500. Over the past couple of weeks, as Clay Holmes, Kodai Senga, David Peterson, Paul Blackburn, Frankie Montas, I mean, everyone they've trotted out there has struggled. While I've been watching them struggle, I've asked myself, Sal, why didn't David Stearns at least consider trading for Garrett Crochet in the offseason? He's had a spectacular season with the Red Sox. By all indications, they could have gotten him at a pretty economical price, but instead they opted to rely on what they had internally, which looked like it was going to work for a little while there. But as the season progressed and the innings count went up, I mean, Clay Holmes has pitched more innings than he's pitched at any point in his career. They just ran out of gas, and it's going to be a problem the rest of the way. I'm really curious to see how Nolan McLean, the rookie phenom that they just called up to make his major league debut on Saturday, looks, because if the young pitchers come up and they look competent as starters, that changes the whole complexion and dynamic of the season, especially as you trend toward October. But as of right now, this is a team that has no identity. When they hit enough, the bullpen struggles. The bullpen's been totally taxed because the starters can't go more than 3 innings too. So that's part of the problem. It's widespread, right? The offense isn't performing. When they do perform, the pitchers can't hold a lead. The starting pitchers are putting them in huge holes early on. This is a team that's really struggling, and with the Reds 1 game behind them for the 3rd and final wild card spot, they're going to need to start winning and picking things up again if they want to make the playoffs. Crazy we're saying that, right? They were in first place, looked like they were going to run away with things. Now we're starting to wonder if they're even going to have a chance to win anything in October. They might be on the golf course in Cancun.
Yeah, they're celebrating Pete Alonso, 254 career home runs. Like, that's some kind of big achievement. I don't know what to say, Jack. That is atrocious. The Mets, really disappointing. I would like to tell people to check out TMZ. They did an excellent documentary on Hulk Hogan, and it was excellent. Why? Vince McMahon was on it, and we haven't seen him in quite a while. I know people have their own feelings. I watched it. I saw Mark Henry on there, still worried about something this guy said. Oh, he's inherently, he said he was a racist. He said he's this. He said he's that. Dude, a lot of people say things. A lot of times they're under duress. There's a lot of things that happen. Hulk Hogan was a great guy. And I'll tell you, Hulk Hogan touched many people. And if you're going to take a few moments of someone's life and make this into who they are, I mean, there's something wrong with you internally. That's what I say. Mark Henry wouldn't even be a wrestler if Hulk Hogan didn't break and smash those doors down for everyone, who helped so many people. And there's so many people out there that defend him. Many that are African-American, too. Booker T loved him. His brother, Stevie Ray. The list, I mean, there's so many I don't want to get into, but Mark Henry seems better. That's why you were the world's strongest man, but you definitely weren't the world's greatest wrestler. You should just stop being bitter. The man is dead. Honor a guy that paved the way for you. Let's not make one bad moment of someone's life their entire life. I can say that about a lot of different people. You always look at somebody for their body of work, not for that one moment that, even what's his name on the Red Sox that dropped that ball? What's his name? Bill Buckley. What was his name? He dropped the ball at first base and the Mets won Game 6. That guy had a great career. Look at his career. He had one bad moment. In Boston, people were throwing things. It was Bill Buckner. That's it. Sorry about the Bill Buckner. I'm thinking about somebody else. Bill Buckner made an error, and it cost him like his life. His family was tortured like in Boston. Dude, it was one moment. It happens. I mean, it hurts that it happens in a moment like that, but he was an outstanding guy. So, great player. And he's remembered for that one incident, but it shouldn't dirty up his body of work, which he was a great player and a great teammate, a good father. I'm just saying, these people that are still, Hunter's saying, there it is, that infamous moment. It can't happen to anyone. Also, good fielding first baseman, by the way. He wasn't Don Mattingly, but he's, Bill Buckner's pretty good. Hunter here says Hulk got Lanny Poulford's break after his reputation in the men's locker room performing his contortionist act. Yeah, he's a great guy. He helped Lanny Poulford, by the way, is the brother of the Macho Man. Ooh, yeah, Macho Man Randy Savage. That was his thing. He helped so many people. I'm tired of hearing all this bad stuff about the guy. It's like the world just wants to tear down people that were icons at one point that helped America be America. They just don't want that. I'm waiting to see who the next guy is going to try to tear down, or the next female they're going to try to tear down because, they're not culturally appropriate because, they're not transgender or whatever crazy sicko radical idea there is out there. But so I'm just going to sign off with this. Thank you all for tuning in. Remember, check out the 10-4 Tavern on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. with Tom Joyce and Peter Foriello. Rewatch the Executive Perspective from yesterday. That's on 1730, 505 every Wednesday. Ron Lace and Rob Lukesh. And, of course, tomorrow morning, watch The Finest Unfiltered with John and Eric and Marlon. They're going to be discussing a lot of things, probably what we uncovered today, which was a bombshell. And thank you once again to Eric Sanders for that. If anyone that might have a case, you might want to call Eric Sanders with that. If not, I know Mr. Scola hasn't been on the show. I keep asking. He's working on something too, John Scola. So you might want to give him a call. Or Serena Townsend, who's got another thing that she's working on. All this stuff constantly. I want to end on one note here. It's a somber moment, but I want to say rest in peace to a NYPD captain, Danny Ramator. He was a captain in the, I believe, at one point he worked in the 10th precinct. He was in Manhattan. I would run into this guy, very nice guy, very unfortunate. John McCarry did also put this up. So if you guys want to check that out, and what can I say? We lose another one on the circumstances that I believe he was sick with something. But again, everyone should always cherish the moments you have with people. All right. So R.I.P. to Captain Ramator and his family, and I just want to a somber moment, and I just want to give my heartfelt condolences to the family. So with that, I'm going to sign off, and I'm going to play this video with Curtis Lewa, and then you'll see your esteemed mayor, Eric Adams. So That's it from sunny South Florida, which, as you know, is a sunny place for shady people.
In this perspective, Zoran Mandami is Coca-Cola. Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo are Diet Coca-Cola, because they basically share many of the same beliefs. For instance, they want non-citizens to vote. I don't. You got to be a citizen. They believe in a sanctuary city, all three of them. I don't. In fact, I would put it up for a vote of the general population in terms of initiative and referendum. So I represent the Republican pro-business positions of slashing taxes and helping businessmen and businesswomen who are in need, especially in the outer boroughs, the smaller business people and the homeowners whose property taxes are crushing.
So this is a biblical moment. You know, when Jesus was on the cross, he said, God, forgive them, for they know not what they do. All these Negroes who are asking me to step down, God, forgive them. Are you stupid?